Call this beat Will Smith, cause it slaps hard. Hear it not when I pull up on your boulevard.
Got a comment in the chat, and the comment goes, Coach, do you agree with the whole not dates on Friday and Saturday for the one you really like? Well, here's the thing. It's not that I agree with that. It's that women agree with that. And it's that women react to getting asked out on a Friday or Saturday more often than not in a negative light. Because here, you got to understand this, right? Women have been looking at romantic movies and comedies and looking at friends in their dating lives. And all these things let them know that when a date is happening in a relationship, it's always on Fridays and Saturdays. And you got to think about the logistics of that, right? If you ask women out Sunday through Thursday, just think about like a woman's time, right? Women hate the idea of going on a first date with a guy that they don't know quite yet that could potentially last 5, 6, 7 hours if the guy doesn't know when to stop the freaking date, which amazingly happens all the time because we get excited with the girl. We see she's pretty, she's talking to us, and we want to try to stretch it out, right? And so one of the reasons that women will more often say yes to a Sunday through Thursday is because there's a time restriction. Most women work these days. So at the very least, they know. Let's say you ask them out for 6 o'clock, right? They're like, oh crap, okay, 6 o'clock, that's 3 freaking hours. But she knows at 9 o'clock, she can say, oh, I gotta go because I got work. So that gives her an out, right? Fridays and Saturdays, most people don't go to work the next day. So women's thinking, crap, if he asked me out on a Friday and I don't like him, but he asked me out at like 6 o'clock, he might ask me out and we'd be hanging out until like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I don't know this dude enough to want to do that, but I won't have an excuse built in of going to work the next day because it's Friday or Saturday. And so for the purposes of women wanting to be able to be in control of their time until they get to know you better, they're going to be more apt to say yes to Sunday through Thursday versus Friday and Saturday. In addition to the whole, yes, Fridays and Saturdays typically are meant for more serious connections. But why is that? Because at that point, the woman's like, oh, I actually like this guy enough to be able to want to spend more time with him and to give him my days that I'd be doing laundry or hanging with girlfriends or just having hours and hours and hours of alone time, like without having to worry about like somebody complaining that I want to get that time because they want to keep me out longer than I want to be, you know? So this is also another reason you want to keep those days free is because those days are going to be your barometer for where she's at in her feelings journey in the dating process. Because if you are only asking her out Sundays through Thursdays, that means that if she wants to get a Friday or Saturday date out of you, she has to be the one to ask for it. And at the point that she asks you for those days, that'll let you know, oh, I've now hit another level of interest from her because, you know, when you first start dating out, she might have like 50 or 60% interest in you, like she's agreed to the date. She's having a marginally good time. But then that third or fourth date, maybe a hookup happens, or maybe you take on this just explosively great date and she's feeling all kinds of hurt and trust and feelings and stuff like that. And this was on a Wednesday. And now she knows based on your pattern of how you ask her out, she's going to have to wait all the way until next week to see you, unless she hits you up. Hey, so I don't know if you're doing anything on this Friday or Saturday, but I thought we could go to the park and hang out. And in my experience, I found that across the board with women, that's what happens, is that when you leave those days open, at the point where they start really liking you and really trusting you and really having high interest in you, they will ask you for the Friday and Saturday. And to his point, he says, plus she thinks you have other options. Exactly. And we want her to think that you have other options. We want her to think that if nothing else, other women are vying for your attention because you are a very gettable bachelor that other women want. And women want to be with guys that other women want. You cannot give that impression away if you're trying to automatically ask her for the days that indicate that you guys are in a couple, because you wouldn't be doing that if you had other options. All right. So when you leave those days free only good things can happen. If you leave those days free, she won't get the impression that you're trying to move too fast. If you leave those days open, it gives you a barometer for where she's at in her feelings journey, and it gives her an excuse to be able to see if the connection she's having with you is as serious as she thinks it is, by way of you saying you also want to do these dates, So that's why you need to leave those days open. And I guess in my personal dating journey, I found by not asking women out for Fridays and Saturdays, it's another one of those things where by the third or fourth date, they're asking for it, which means that they're the ones driving this, which means they're effectively the ones that are now chasing me. And what do I always say? If she's chasing you, she can't be replacing you. All right. So hopefully it helps you out. We got one more question in the chat. Okay. So the question is, what if you don't really care about her? Say you just want a little fun. Do you stick with that? Well, I'm sorry. My feeling is like, if you don't really care about her, you shouldn't be hooking up with her. Like, that's my gut reaction, because I don't like this stuff isn't designed to help you just randomly get chicks and then flee. I talked to a friend of mine earlier today that happened to, and it's one thing when you're the guy that's just doing the hookups and the hurting. You're like, I got my rocks up, this and that. To have female friends come to me and tell me stories about how they hooked up with the guy that they thought really liked them, only to find out that they have other things going on in the background, or they were just in it for the hookup, and that person was like really trying to give their body to actually make a connection. Those stories aren't fun to hear, and they're a little depressing. And you got to take that into account. You really have to understand that women, when they're hooking up with you, for us, we're going into a hole. It's just, we're in, we're out, this and that. Women have to get to the point in their head where they trust us enough to open themselves up and their bodies up to us. And so for us to think, well, we can just do whatever, and then it's gonna be totally fine. We're taking that because we're the ones that are like going to the bank and then getting out with the money, and they're left with like the damage inside the bank, And so this is why I'm like, if you are with a woman that's like, hey, you know what? I don't want anything serious either. I just want to have a good time, maybe a friends with benefits situation. That's totally fine. I've done that. I've literally had conversations with females I knew in the past that were like, hey, look, if you're single and I'm single and we just both need to like have a good time, let's hit each other up. And sometimes that happened. It was like, good. We knew what it was. We weren't in there for love, and we weren't in there to try to get with each other. We just knew this moment in time, we ain't got people. And so we're both people that have needs. Let's do the thing. And then when we both found other people, okay, great. We're not going to do that anymore. Fantastic. So there are women out there that will actually agree to, I just want to hook up. But to give the woman and knowing that she probably wants more than that and still going through with it, I don't think that's fair. So I don't tend to push that agenda,
You's a bad boy, but you can't stop, won't stop. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high class man. You a high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man.